Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Don't Talk Sports. My name is Dylan. In this video, what I want to talk about is we're going to talk about the NBA and if we have a scoring problem within the NBA. For those of you who have not been keeping up with the NBA, you would have saw over the past couple weeks and even months, we've seen Karl Anthony Towns put up a 60-plus point game. We've seen Joel Embiid put up a 70 points in a game, correction. And we've also now seen Luka Doncic go out there and put up 73 points in a game, all within like a month span. And in case you forgot, there's only been about 8 70-point games before any of these happened. And with all this scoring, having people to start to question, like, is this really a good thing? Or we're going to just see a bunch of players start scoring 60, 70 points a game on average? Whereas before it was like, man, this player scored 40 points. Man, that was a great game. Now it's going to almost be accustomed to where like, oh, hey, this guy scored 40 points and we're going to look at it as cool, whatever. Where's the 50, 60, 70 point games? So what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna kind of go through, we're gonna review the stats of how many points per game where we saw about 10 years ago compared to now. We're gonna talk about players, how much they be scoring, like I said, a couple years ago to now compared to like how the game has kind of went, because as you know, the game's got a little bit softer nowadays. Fouls happen a lot more often, and the whole game I think has just changed a lot. And then by the end, I'm gonna pretty much give my full opinion on if I think it's a good thing or a bad thing for the NBA with all the scoring. I'm gonna say now, I honestly think it's a good thing, but we'll kind of go more in depth. So without further ado, if you're going to enjoy it, as always, make sure you go and drop a like on today's video. Be very much appreciated if you do so. But without further ado, let's get into it. Now, like I already said in the intro, we've already now seen a Karl Anthony Towns put up, I think, like 64, 65 points a game. We just saw Stephen Curry here a few days ago put up 60 points in a game. And we also saw, like I said, Luka Doncic, and we also saw Joel Embiid put up to 70 points per game. And I wanted to quickly show you guys, we've now seen 2 70 points a games in the past about like a month, close to having 4 if Steph and Kat would have put up 70 points as well. But just to kind of show you how many 70 points per or 70 point games we've seen in NBA history, going back, Elgin Baylor was the first one with 1960. Then Will Chamberlain, he did it a bunch of times, but like as we can see, the man was a freak. He was just scoring with ease for his whole time period. We had David Thompson, we had David Robinson. Kobe Bryant had his 81-point game. Devin Booker back in 2017, he went nuts against the Celtics. He actually didn't win that game, so it kind of let down the fact that he lost that game and scored 70 points. A little over a year ago, we saw Donovan Mitchell go up there and put up 100 or help the Cavs. They went for 145 to 134 against the Bulls. That was a great game. If you did not watch that game, I'm a Cavs fan. I watched that game. He was able to put up 71 points. Damian Lillard, again, last year, a little bit after Donovan Mitchell had his game, he put up 71 points. And then now, obviously, like I said, we have Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic now going out there and putting up big-time numbers. And I'm telling you right now, before we even had Devin Booker, there was a point where we looked at all this and we saw we're never going to see that kind of stat line again. It's just never going to happen. But now, with the question of we've seen Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, and now Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic, we've now had 4 70-point games within the past about year to a year and a half. And it makes sense why it's happening. You guys can see right here, league averages. We're going to go over here to the offensive rating, and we're going to scroll down to about kind of how the game was about 20 years ago. And you can see about 106 is about the rating. Kind of what the offensive rating is, you can kind of read it here. Basically, it kind of takes an estimate of points produced or players or scored per 100 possessions. So basically kind of showing how many points you're kind of getting throughout all your possessions. And as we can see, about 115 points per game is what the teams are getting these days, which sounds about accurate. And back here about 20 years ago, about 106 points per game seems pretty reasonable, because back then, as we know, the game, you saw final scores of like maybe 80 to 90 or 78 to like 94. That was like the final score. Nowadays, you see teams getting 100 points by the end of the third quarter. And then looking at how the teams are playing right now, if we look at the points per game, the Indiana Pacers being number 1 team, they have 124.2 points per game they're scoring. You go to the bottom, the Memphis Grizzlies, they're getting 106.9 points per game. That's still a lot of points for being dead last. Now, I understand why some people are saying like they don't like this. They wish the NBA would go back to kind of the way it was. More defense. Those are more the old school kind of players, or old school, I guess you could say, fans, the old heads. And I will say it was a fun time in the NBA at that point, because it was like every shot mattered. It's more or less of what college basketball is kind of right now. Every shot matters. If you miss a bucket, you're going to wish you made that shot, because your final score could come down to being like 78 to 81. And nowadays, you see even college going to high limits. You see guys scoring 100 points in college now, whereas about 5-10 years ago, the final scores could have been like 62 to 59, or like, hell, there were some scores where I remember being like 46 to 50 was the final score in college. Now you see scores shooting up way up to like 90 to 100 points. Now, I do have a couple explanations as to why this is happening. I already said once before, the game has gotten soft. There's fouls happen at an extraordinary measure. It takes anything as little as just a slight tap on the hand, a bump off the side, and you're getting called for a foul. More fouls equals more free throws equals more points. In the NBA and even just basketball in general, I think fans are enjoying the points, if we're going to be honest. To me, I don't have a problem with it. I love the scoring. I like when the score goes up. I don't enjoy the 140 plus points out of a team beating the shit out of a team. I don't enjoy that. And I am going to be honest, when it comes to like the whole foul, and like I said, tap in the hand, a bump off the sides, there's sometimes when the fouls, a ref will call a bump, but then other times where a player will get shoved and they'll just stand there and look around. That needs to get a little bit more consistent. And the other thing that is kind of contributing to the way of players scoring more, the three-point shot. The three-point shot is a huge part in this game. About, like I said, 10 years ago, hell, we even go just, like I said, 10 years. The amount of three-pointers being taken was roughly about 28 threes a game. Now, we're looking at upwards of almost 40 three-point attempts per game. Not made, attempted. Now, I guess you could, if you want to say the blame could be from Steph Curry taking all the three-point shots. Everybody wants to be like Steph. You could say that, but the NBA has also kind of helped contribute to that, because I believe about 5 years ago they actually pushed the three-point line up a little bit, about a foot, maybe half a foot, to make it easier for guys to take to make three-point shots, so not everybody's just hoisting up threes all the time. And as you know, the more threes you take, the more points you're gonna get. Nowadays, guys are going to take threes, whereas back in the day, these three-point shots you see them taking nowadays, you usually would have been mid-range jumpers, two-point shots. As we can see, you're getting about 120 points per game out of some teams, whereas before, that would have been probably about 90 points per game if they're not taking all these threes. So ultimately, how would you kind of fix it? If you were going to say, how do we fix it if you don't want these high-scoring games, how exactly would the NBA fix it? The only way I could think of how you fix it, make the teams have to play more defense. And what I mean by that is, I guess if you're going to say, the refs are going to be the way they are, they're going to call fouls at that's this high rate and just be douchebags about it, you're going to have to just find ways to play better defense. And defense is just kind of almost like left the ballpark of sports in this generation, I think. And it's not just basketball, it's football as well. It's almost all sports. Defense has just been MIA, nowhere to be seen. Everybody loves offense, everybody loves the scoring, and this, I guess it's just because of this younger generation. These kids, they love to see team score. And I guess in our generation, our father's generation, our parents' generation, they enjoy watching a football game that the final score was 7-3. They enjoy watching a basketball game that was 81-79. But in this generation, they enjoy watching football games that are 42-41. Basketball games that are 136-128. It's just the way the generation has gone, and I guess that's where the NBA is moving. But like I said, do I think it's a bad thing? No. I think it's kind of a good thing to see some players scoring a lot. I just think it's one of those things of, we had this, like, I guess you could say record of, we saw the 70-point game being like this thing that we never thought was going to happen. And the fact that it's been done now 4 times in the past year and a half, it's kind of, I guess you could say, diminishing the value of it. Because before it started happening, we would have looked at it as, man, if you score 70 points, you were like on top of the world. But now if we see so many players constantly scoring 70 points, eventually it's going to get to the point where it's like, if you don't score 100, I don't care. And I'm willing to stand on it that I feel like it's going to come to that point within the next 10 years. We're going to get to the point in the NBA where you're going to see guys scoring 50 points at an extreme high rate, 50 to 60 points, and it's going to get to the point where 70 points is going to be what this day and age of 40 points is. And eventually, if you're not scoring 100 points, you didn't do anything special. But other than that, I'm going to wrap it up there. Hopefully you guys did go on to enjoy today's video. If you did enjoy, as always, make sure you go and drop a like on today's video. Be very much appreciated if you do so. If you stayed to watch the entirety of today's video, thank you very much. And like I said, if you have a different opinion on the whole thing, if you like the high scoring games, if you don't like the high scoring games, if you like the players scoring a lot of points, if you like these 70-point games coming out of guys like Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Joel Embiid, and all those different players, if Luka Doncic, if you like the high scoring players or high scoring games out of players and you think it's a good thing, let me know down in the comment section down below. I'll be more than welcome to talk about it with you guys. If you're a fan of the content that I do post here and you want to go and hit that big red subscribe button, feel free to do so. And do not forget to hit that little notification bell to be notified the second I post. But without further ado, this has been Dylan Talk Sports. Have a great day. Peace.